everyone. Hopefully you're getting pumped for UFC 249 this weekend, which is headlined by Justin Gaethje and Tony Ferguson fighting for the 155 belt, the lightweight interim championship, which is being co-mained by Dominic Cruz and Henry Cejudo, who are fighting for the bantamweight championship, the 135 belt in the UFC. So I just wanted to start off, this video is going to be focused on my picks and my breakdowns of the preliminary fights, actually the early preliminary fights, the preliminary fight video followed by the main card will be coming up shortly, will be uploaded shortly. So the first fight on the early prelims is Ryan Spann versus Sam Alvey, and Ryan Spann is fought on the Contender Series, Dana White's Contender Series, which is somewhat of a replacement to the Ultimate Fighter, even though now we know that the Ultimate Fighter is going to be coming back. So again, Ryan Spann being one of those guys that came up through the Contender Series to get a spot on the UFC roster, will be taking on Sam Alvey. I think this is a big fight for Ryan Spann. I believe he's fought twice in the UFC. I could be mistaken on that. But he's got great, pretty good grappling. He's a pretty good wrestler. He's got some power in his punches. I just watched one of his fights in the Legacy Fighting Alliance and against Alex Nicholson, and I saw potentially maybe some cardio issues there. When I say cardio issues, I don't mean he obviously has bad cardio, but Sam Alvey is a guy who will stand up and throw with you. He's pretty durable, and I think it's a very good matchup. I think we're going to see both those guys throwing bombs at each other, and I anticipate this to be a really good fight at light heavyweight, and I don't know who... if there's a clear-cut winner in this fight, I think it's a tough one to pick, but based on kind of what I've been watching, I think Ryan Spann is going to be able to grapple with Sam Alvey, get him on the ground, kind of throw some ground and pound, and then when he gets back up, it's just going to be a matter of where is his cardio going to be. But I just think he's going to be a little bit too much, especially if it goes to decision. He's going to be able to dominate those rounds a little bit more than Alvey. Again, no disrespect to Alvey, he's also a great fighter. But I do have Ryan Spann in the first fight on the early prelims. The second fight, I think a lot of people are excited for this. At least some hardcore UFC fans. We're seeing potentially one of the next great 145ers, one of the next great featherweights coming up through the ranks, and that's Bryce Thug Nasty Mitchell. I think obviously he's gained a lot of popularity for his twister that he pulled off in his last fight. I want to say that's the second twister that's ever occurred in the UFC. I believe Korean Zombie has the other one. So I think it's very interesting. Maybe we'll potentially see a Bryce Mitchell Korean Zombie matchup. That'd be cool if one of those guys pulled out the twister again. But I think it's very interesting to note here, a lot of people have Bryce Mitchell just going through this fight and demolishing Charles Rosa. And Charles Rosa is kind of one of these guys that's been bouncing around at 145, and he's certainly fought some top guys, coming off a decision loss to Yair Rodriguez. As we know, Yair Rodriguez is currently one of the best fighters at 145, and we'll probably be looking at a title shot soon, coming off his victory against Jeremy Stephens. And Charles Rosa also got knocked out by Shane Burgos. I want to say that was either in his last fight or the fight before. So, but the interesting thing is that although Mitchell is a pretty good grappler, so is Rosa. I don't know if Rosa is as good of a grappler, but I think he's going to cause some trouble there. And I think Rosa is going to try to keep the fight on the feet and try and land some big blows on Bryce Mitchell. That's where I see him doing best in this fight. I do still have Bryce Mitchell. He's only got one loss in his professional career, and he certainly looked good in the UFC. So I think that he'll be able to get the job done against Charles Rosa. I think that's going to occur on the ground with a submission, probably in the second or third round. And I think if it goes to decision, that's kind of even worse for Charles Rosa. I wouldn't want to let the fight go to decision, because I do think that Bryce Mitchell is a little bit better of a grappler, and I think that's what he's going to try and do in the fight. So, like I said, I think Charles Rosa needs to stand up and try and knock him out, or at least control the fight on his feet. And the last fight on the early preliminary card is Vicente Luque and Nico Price. Now, this fight might be the best fight on the entire card. Now, people are probably looking at me like, you realize Tony Ferguson and Justin Gaethje on this card, and that's one of the most exciting fights we've ever seen. Not denying that. Vicente Luque and Nico Price previously fought before, and Vicente Luque won via submission. Both of these guys are pretty well-rounded in terms of all aspects of their game. They're both pretty good on the ground. They're both pretty good grapplers. They can both stand up and throw bombs. They both are able to get a submission. They're also able to get an unorthodox type finish to the fight. We've obviously seen Nico Price with the up kicks and other forms of submissions and knockouts that have been a little bit just uncharacteristic among other UFC fighters. And it's interesting to note that Nico Price has kind of been on a little bit of a roll recently, coming off his last win against James Vick. Vicente Luque recently defeating Mike Platinum Perry, who many people would argue is one of the toughest guys at 170. So, and I believe he's also fought at 155. But I think this is probably my second or third favorite fight on the card. I'm a big Nico Price fan. I think that Luque in their first fight was what had kind of shown his dominance, but I also think Nico Price was able to do some damage in the first round. I do have Luque winning this second fight. I just think that he's a little bit better of a stand-up fighter and a little bit superior in terms of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But I do think that Nico Price has a very good chance of winning this fight. He does have a slight reach advantage by a half inch and a slight height advantage by an inch. I don't think that's going to play too much in terms of determine too much of the outcome in this fight. But I do think Luque will be able to get it done. And I think that's going to occur probably in the second or third round via submission. The way I see Nico Price winning this fight is if he's able to get on the ground and just beat Luque on the ground, and I don't think that's going to be easy. So it'll be interesting to see how this fight plays out, but certainly in terms of the knockout power, I would definitely give that upper hand to Nico Price. He doesn't like to let the judges score the fight and come down to that. He likes to get a finish, and I think in terms of his ability to finish fights, he's certainly up there in the welterweight division in terms of his power and his ability to end fights before the third round, or in the case of a main event, a fifth round. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Like I said, I have Bryce Mitchell winning his fight, I have Ryan Spann winning his fight, and I have Vicente Luque winning his fight. Give me some feedback. Let me know if I've gotten something wrong here, or something that you think that would be more important in terms of the outcome of the fight, why you think the fighter that I did not pick will win the fight. Please let me know in the comments section, and thank you very much for watching.